It's pretty awesome that you have like your own clothing brand right now. How long has that been going?
So it's like a clothing brand, but it's also the training business. So kind of like combining both of them. And I think my big thing was trying to like create something that got people excited to work hard
Yeah.
and be willing to like grind. So
And the name is Verus, right?
Verus, yeah.
And what does that stand for? Kind of
It's actually a Latin word, and Verus means real.
okay.
So I kind of thought that was fitting.
Yeah.
But like it's training, it's clothing, it's I kind of call it like just like a lifestyle. I tried to adopt like the word the game changer
Yeah.
and like trying to become a game changer and what it means to be a game changer. Like working hard and
Yeah.
not only in the weight room but just like in every aspect of your life too.
Cool.
So
you're inspiring a lot of the athletes you work with,
yeah,
just with the brand and the name, and
exactly.
helping them carry that badge in a way.
Right. It gets them more like it creates that almost like cult like following rather than just being like, oh, I train with Christie Performance or whatever. It's like, no, I'm a part of Verus Athletics. I'm a part of the VA crew. I live that lifestyle, kind of similar to ATG in a way.
Yeah, that's awesome.
How you guys are almost cult like. Well, I guess
almost cult like.
But like you follow it every day. It's something you do every day. You follow the methods. Like that's what you want when you start a business is people to like buy in so much to what you do that they like live it in their lifestyle.
Yeah, I think we've become so dissociated from living in a community that people call what is just a normal community, they try to deem it a cult.
Yeah.
But it's just literally just a community. But we're so dissociated from having that, like from talking to your neighbor, from being a part of a group. And a lot of that is just like the separation that the powers that be are trying to do. Or am I wrong?
No, I would have to say you're probably right. Yeah.
All right. Well, hey guys, welcome to episode 8 of the Physical Freedom Podcast. I'm here with my friend Ryan Christie. He's visiting us all the way from Ohio. What city in Ohio?
Toledo,
Ohio. That's right. And I'm pretty sure I asked you that last time, and I'm probably going to forget again.
Because
the only thing I know in Ohio is like Columbus.
Yeah. Definitely not as cool as Columbus, but.
Sweet, man. So, what brings you all the way down here with like Clearwater?
Well, was able to build a good relationship with you guys and stay in touch over the last 7 months since I came down here last, and recently finished my ATG level 2 certification. So
let's go.
Wanted to get back and celebrate and hang out and catch up.
Yeah. What is the process in your eyes of what it is to become an ATG coach?
I think the reason that I really liked it was because it forced me to not only learn but experiment with it myself.
Mm-hmm.
So one of those parts of being an ATG level 2 coach is or in level 1, but just being able to do it yourself. And that's one thing that I think I really enjoyed was challenging myself and pushing myself to new limits, because I knew if I wanted to get ATG level 2 that I had to be pretty freaky in a lot of the exercises. So and then I think the one thing that I really liked is it's not like a textbook where you're having to sit and learn and study in a traditional manner. You're learning through experimentation and being in the field and having to work with people.
Right.
And I feel like that made me learn and remember and apply things way greater than just sitting down and trying to cram for a test like in a textbook,
Right. In a way, it makes you have to sit down and study it,
right?
Because if you're going to try to figure out this puzzle of like, hey, how do I get perfect form in these movements? You have to learn the movements, and each movement is like a science, right? And then there's the art of programming. So it's going to get you curious about the art when you're looking at the science of the movements. It's going to get you curious. Okay, how do I blend these things together? And then you end up attending calls. And I really like that it's really interactive. Everybody who I know who's an L2 coach, I'm like, okay, you earned it. Like you've been through it. You had to take a client up to those levels. Yeah. Who was your client?
My client, his name was Mike Edwards. Coach Mike Ed is what I call him. He's a guy that is a part of Verus up in Toledo with me, and he trains a lot of football players. But nice. He's been basically my workout partner for like the last 2 years. So while I was also training ATG, he was kind of coming along with me, not knowing that eventually he was going to be, the client that I ended up using for the test. But
dude, that's awesome.
Yeah, it was fun to be able to make that progress with him and, kind of know what we were doing already.
Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome. So you're definitely building a culture out there. Like you're even taking your staff through some of the courses that you're taking.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool, man. and we're definitely going to get into you being a business owner, like owning the studio and all that. But before you were a business owner and before you had a studio, you were an athlete yourself. What kind of got you interested into this type of training, even if you want to start from the time you were a college athlete, and tell us where you went to college, all that stuff.
Yeah. So, I think the thing that got me interested most into this training and just training in general was the fact that I had played college sports and worked with, all of these different coaches, all these different trainers. I had gone to all these different facilities and places, and I never really saw major progress in my athleticism through all of that.
Yeah.
And I was told, this is just your genetic ability. This is what you were given, and you just kind of have to live with that. And for the longest time, that just didn't really sit right with me. I felt like I had more to offer, and I just needed to unlock that. And during COVID, once I was done playing basketball, I was kind of just interested. I didn't really have anything going on because we were on lockdown. So I was like, I'm going to start working out and training myself. And just kind of started diving into like YouTube rabbit holes of different trainers and methodologies, and came across Ben. And I think once I started doing everything, I had seen like crazy progress within a couple of months. Simply from just like getting my flexibility better.
Yeah.
So once I saw that, I was like, okay, maybe there is a possibility that my genetics, what I was gifted with my genetics, is like my limits are way higher than what I had perceived. And that's something that I would always go back and forth with Ben, is like, he kept telling me like, dude, what you can do way more than what you think. Like, your limits are so much higher than what you think. And I think that just gave me the mindset to just keep striving for it. But I think that was the thing that like really drew me to training in general, and which led me to discover ATG, was just like, I was so limited. I had so much skill. I was a great, I spent a ton of time working on my skill, but not having that athleticism, that's something that held me back. The amount of coaches that told me like, man, if you were a little bit more athletic, you could be playing at this level or whatever. And just trying to pursue that and kind of chase that thing that I wasn't good at was, what kind of led me to everything.
Wow. Yeah, that's crazy. So you're helping like your old self in a way.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And that's kind of what I think about when I'm training clients is, imagine if I could have started doing this stuff when I was 13, 14, 15 years old. I think my life would have probably looked a lot different. So, it's not something that I look back and I feel regretful. I feel excited and grateful that I can, now help those kids now that are in that same position.
Yeah, absolutely. Living in that present.
Yeah.
It gets you excited to realize like, hey, you get to wake up every day and help people become better versions of themselves, right?
Definitely.
What is the biggest obstacle for somebody who is younger? Is it genetics? Is it not really having a route? What would you think in your opinion?
Yeah, I think the biggest obstacle for someone like my younger self could be just simply information. Just like having someone around, having a trainer around that has the information to be able to, teach them or them to learn it themselves. I think that was like, it's obviously times have changed a lot. I'm not really that old, but even when I was coming up, like, these resources weren't out there. So just being able to have that information out to these athletes, I think is really, really crucial. But I would say like things that really limit those kids is usually their skill and their advanced skill in their specific sport. So if we're talking about a basketball player, do you have the fundamentals of, a lot of them have fundamentals of their footwork, but what's that next level of footwork that advanced players have, like Kyrie Irving has, right? What's that next level of scoring ability that Carmelo Anthony had that we can start to learn, right? And learning that advanced level of skill, I think, is one thing that I've been able to kind of figure out what those things are and then be able to teach that to my players. So, that's one thing that we really try to focus on. But then in the same sentence, also finding those things in the weight room as well. So that limiting thing could be, some of the different standards like a Nordic, like your tibialis, and just finding what those weak links are. I think a lot of kids would be surprised at how much their weaknesses hold them back. And if you become a lot stronger and a lot more athletic, that's going to help you with that upper level of skill in your sport as well.
Right. So to tackle those weak links, what are some of the biggest weak links that you see in a high school athlete, or specifically a basketball player? Let's stick to that.
it's shocking to me how many athletes I have that are just extremely tight, you know, and like we talked about, strength through length I think is really important, and so flexibility, it kind of goes hand in hand. But like, you throw a kid into a couch stretch and how bad they are in that couch stretch, or you throw someone into a seated good morning and you realize like they can't really go down at all, or a Jefferson curl and you see how tight their hamstrings are. You know, the reason that I like chasing those movements and working on those movements is because you can make considerable progress quickly by doing those things, especially when you start to mess with load, and, you know, loading safely on a Jefferson curl can be something that really helps you improve your hamstring length, right? So that's one thing that surprises me every time I get a new client, is how not inflexible people are. But I think that strength through length is also something that is a major issue for pretty much everyone, right? Not only, you know, can someone get into an ATG split squat, but, you know, they might only be able to do 10, 20, 30 pounds in an ATG split squat. But we know, like, that freak standard of being able to do your body weight, people hear that and they're like, that's impossible. I've had kids tell me, like, that's legit impossible. And I've had to show kids, like, they've been like, okay, if that's our standard, I want to see you do it. And I'll go throw 180 on the bar and do an ATG split squat, and they're like, wow, I'm really weak, you know? So I think that strength through length is really important, and one thing that a lot of kids really struggle with. You know, like, even when you look at a Nordic, you get to the bottom of that Nordic, that's when everyone is at their absolute weakest part, you know, where people can't even go down into that Nordic. So those are two things that I think I've seen consistently in the weight room regarding ATG that everyone struggles with.
Yeah, the kids are struggling with flexibility. It's huge. I mean, my biggest thing is mobility. That's what I help people with. And correct me if I'm wrong, I've coached a few kids, and every time I notice is like their hip flexors are super tight.
Yeah.
I'm like, dude, what have you been doing? Like, you're in like fifth grade.
What they're doing. They sit down for 8 hours a day at school, and they wear crappy footwear. And they're in a car all the time, and they never actually get into those positions of length, and that's where all that stems. But the one thing that I think is really interesting, when I get kids that are 1st through 5th grade, those kids always hit every standard, every stretch, every exercise that has length in it. They always can achieve it. And then once they get to 6th grade, it's a little bit less. And then 7th grade, it's a little bit less. By the time they're in high school, they've completely lost it. And I think that's really interesting. I have some kids that I work with that are a little bit younger, and I've been trying to push these things into their head, because I would have to assume that if you start with a kid that has those abilities and you start to work on those things when they're in 4th, 5th grade at a light body weight type level, and you work all the way up to high school, they're going to be able to keep that rather than like losing it and getting it back. You know? But it's been interesting to see how all those younger kids can hop into a couch stretch and do it perfectly right away. Or get into a Jefferson curl and they can do it perfectly right away.
The human body is meant to do all these things, you know. Big furniture doesn't want you to know this, but chairs weren't invented till like the 1800s. And people weren't sitting around all day back then. They were just sitting in a deep squat. People were much more flexible and mobile back then. And like you're saying, kids, 6th grade start having issues. I'm training people who are in their 40s, 50s, 60s. It's pretty crazy. It's kind of wild. And, you know, it makes me really happy to like be able to help them regain their natural ability and freedom to move. But it's kind of shocking how few adults over 40 can do a full depth squat. Like I had one client that did it, and I was like, "Oh my God, that's amazing!" He was like, "What? I'm just I'm just like doing this naturally." And it was a lot of because of his culture. Like he sits down and prays on his knees like 5 times a day. He's been able to keep that mobility. So it just goes along with the concept of like, if you don't use it, you lose it, you know. And that's now looking back, I'm like, that's a big reason why I was so stiff, you know, before I started doing ATG and like movements that added load to stretching. I was just sitting at working at a desk all day, you know. So it's like you think that's another thing people say, oh, blame on poor genetics. You know, it's like saying, oh, I'm just not flexible because of my genetics. And it's like the truth is you're probably not stretching. You're probably not taking any positions that challenge your tissues under load because you've been told to avoid it. And you probably sit 8 or 6 plus hours a day, like most of us do. From the time we are in kindergarten, we're sitting. sitting off the floor, in a desk chair.
Yeah.
And then all the way up until 12th. And then you go into college and you're still sitting in the desk. And then you go into your office work if you do that. If you're not doing manual labor and you end up sitting in a desk. So
it's crazy how habits, like when you look at like a kid's life, they could go to school in the morning and then sit down for 7 hours. And then they get home. And then they hop on the game, and they play Xbox for another 3 hours, and then they go sit down at dinner, and then they drive to basketball practice, and then they're on their feet for a couple hours, and they get back to the game. It's like, if you really look at it, kids could be sitting down for 14 hours in a day. Yeah. And it's consistent like that. And that just can't be healthy.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, all that stuff's crazy, man. So how did you, where did you start your career? Did you start as a personal trainer? And kind of like, where did you start, and then how did you transition into owning your own place?
Yeah. So I'll never forget. I had just kind of started learning about everything. I was making some cool progress in myself, and I always had this knack of like always finding a gym, even when I was playing in high school.
Yeah.
I was the guy that like set up the runs and set up the workouts for me and my teammates to be able to get into the gym. So I always had a knack for getting into a gym. And obviously during COVID, a lot of gyms were closed. So, all my buddies were home, and most of them were playing college basketball, college football, whatever it may have been. And I was like training at the time, like I said, training myself. And I'm like, hey guys, like let's all go work out. I can get a gym for us. And there's this guy that had a gym in his backyard with a court. And he had some cool tools in there, like a Vertimax and different things, and just come work out, guys. And ended up in that workout. There was a guy that is playing in the NFL. There's a guy that's now playing in the NBA. A guy playing overseas in Luxembourg. All of them being my good buddies who were, they're in college at the time.
Yeah.
And after that workout, I was like, wow, this is exactly what I want to be doing. Like, it just completely changed my perspective on things. I was like, I could care less if I ever play another live minute of basketball in my life. This is what I want to be doing. So I just tried to figure out, like, how am I going to do this? And I was really lucky because my first client was my perfect client. We talked about what does that perfect client look like. I got really fortunate in that first client was that kid. And he was someone that was extremely motivated, someone that loved basketball, someone that was willing to put in the work, very open to new ideas, and someone that was lacking the same way that I was when I was younger, in flexibility, in strength through length, in understanding how to train plyometrics. And I'll never forget it. Our first workout was in my parents' basement. No equipment. I had an old chest that was an antique chest from my mom's grandparents or something that we were using to hold positions in and stuff, and it was awesome. And from there, that kid, his name is Josh Turbin, who ended up playing at the University of Findlay on a full scholarship. And we worked out for, someone actually I still stay in touch with and work out with to this day.
That's awesome.
And I think in like 6 months, he gained 7 inches on his vertical.
Wow.
And we were training virtually for the most part. And that was kind of how I got started. Because once I had that story, then I kind of thought, I think I can do this with just about anyone.
Yeah.
And just being able to retell that story and get other people willing to try it out was kind of how I got started, which led me to, being like, hey, I need to find myself a gym, and kind of went all in as I was finishing school. I wanted to be a financial advisor. That was what I was going to school to be, and was set up at a really good place in Toledo to do that, and I was also working on opening a place at the same time. And I was like, man, I just can't, I wouldn't be able to live with myself if I didn't take that jump, take that leap of faith. And I went for it, and the rest is kind of history. But
dude, that's amazing.
Yeah, it's a cool story.
So what's the name of the studio?
So right now I actually opened it with a great friend of mine. Her name is Nikki Holdship, who was doing yoga, and the name that she came up with was Afterglow Yoga. But obviously it's not a yoga studio anymore. Because we decided to go a different direction. We just call it the studio now. It's just like known as the studio. I haven't changed the sign up in the front. I always say it's kind of like the Bat Cave, because you pull up and there's a big pink sign on the front. And you're like, what the heck is this? I thought this was like this gym where all these athletes are. and then you go in and you're like, oh, okay, this is a gym where all the athletes are, which I kind of like that. It was like $5,000 to get a new sign, so I was like, I'd rather put in equipment to rather than buy a new sign. I don't really care if it's a big pink sign out front.
Yeah.
But
big sign doesn't want you to know this, but you can actually still have a thriving business without changing the sign.
Right. It's like discreet. That's why I say it's like the Batcave in there.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome, man. Well, shoot, dude, we got to get you, like, once you start hitting some more success, that $5,000's got to, unless you want to keep a legacy.
Yeah, well,
I like it too, but it's interesting.
The whole idea was like we're eventually going to be moving.
Okay.
Moving places.
Yeah.
So we actually have a new facility that we're moving to in September that I'm really excited about. That's going to kind of, I think, just allow us, not only for me as a business owner to grow my business, but I think it's going to take our training to the next level and really help our clients to get even more improvements and results than we ever have before.
That's amazing, yeah.
So I'm really pumped up about that. That's everything that's kind of in the works. And I think it's a great location as well. So I'm super excited about that.
Dude, that's huge.
Yeah, so the pink sign doesn't matter.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Do you own the new building?
The new building I'll be renting. It's a huge 30,000 square foot building.
Wow.
And I'm lucky enough to have a small space within that. But it's going to be like the Verus HQ, basically.
There you go.
And we're going to have a Verus sign this time.
Good stuff, man. Yeah. So what are some things that set your training apart, from other trainers that you like to specify? What are the Vera pillars?
Yeah.
Verus pillars.
Verus pillars. Well, I think one of those things is just having a backbone around ATG, and just being able to go back to those ATG methods, I think is something that, I think ATG is groundbreaking. It's changed my life. I've seen it change plenty of other people's lives as well. So just having that as like a backbone, when we are weight training and we're doing the ATG stuff, that's just like another level. But I think it's kind of like a holistic approach to building freak athleticism. ATG is great. It's going to do a lot of great things for you. But I think then adding in the speed training that we do, which I think is critical that every athlete should be doing, that not enough athletes are doing. And I think that our speed training and our speed coaches are top tier. We've been able to learn a lot of really great stuff through other great coaches, but also just through experimentation. And then also the plyometrics, the jump training, understanding all that stuff as well. So I think the thing that really sets us apart is that it's not just like a one thing, and I think that's what I discovered as I was trying to increase my athleticism. I thought there would be like one thing that would just get me to that next level. No. But there's so many different things, and I think that's why our clients always have great results. That's why all of our coaches have life-changing stories. It's because we're kind of taking that approach of pursuing, every aspect of athleticism and just health in general.
Yeah, amazing. So you mentioned the new studio you're going to be renting, a 30,000 foot building. That's huge.
Yeah.
Where do you want to go from that? Like, what do you see your grand vision with your business and with your coaching?
I think the grand vision would just be to continue to add new places, new things to that. So we're going to have a large turf field that we have access to. We're going to have like our same studio, all of our stuff that we can do our ATG stuff, which gives us like 2 of our 3 things that I primarily do. That third thing would be a basketball court. So I think, I have a vision of a place that has that area for speed training, that has that area for the ATG training, and then also has that area where we can do our basketball stuff. That's kind of where I see it going, if I could have a perfect spot. But I think I'm really excited about some of the coaches that we have working with us and training some of our clients. I think that's something that has made my life a whole lot easier, is being able to expand bigger than myself. And I think lastly would probably just be growing more outside of Northwest Ohio. There's a lot of other areas and there's a lot of other athletes out there that could benefit from this training. So how do we connect with those athletes, and how do we, kind of grow that Verus lifestyle and that Verus community bigger than just Toledo?
Yeah. Awesome, man. Yeah, what do you think is gonna take to get there?
Probably some luck. A
Yeah.
lot of hard work. And I think I think it comes down to like sometimes you're gonna have to take a little bit of a risk too. Even going into this new building, I think is a little bit of a risk. And as a business owner, you just have to be willing to make that leap and just figure it out as you go. But we've always, the reason that my business has grown in general and the reason that I continue to get new clients is because of results. It's been built on results, and I think that's one thing that is going to continue to take us to that next level is the more that we can change people's lives, the more clients that we're going to have coming back into us. But I think also, just continuing to stay solid as a person and as a trainer and as a friend and whatever, some of these kids consider me to be, just caring and being willing to go above and beyond and be more than just a coach. I always like to say that, although I am a coach, like, I don't want you to treat me like a traditional coach. I'm not here to coach you and get on you and, do those types of things, although there may be a time to help motivate somebody, just being a good person and a resource and having that relationship that's bigger than just coach,
Yeah.
I think that's something that I take a lot of pride in. That means a lot more to me than the results and the training is just some of the relationships that I've been able to build with a lot of our athletes as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. You want to be a leader. Like you said, you're building a culture.
Yeah.
So you're not just building a gym, you're building a culture. You're trying to get these people to look up to you as leading by example, not just, hey, do this. Yeah,
Right.
I get that. That's a really good way to look at it, man. Where can people find you? What are some of your web pages, website?
Yeah, so our
Instagram.
our main website is going to be startverusathletics.xyz.
Okay.
Verus is VERUS. That's going to give you a lot more information about who I am, some of our success stories that we've had, and how you can also train with us.
Yeah.
And then my Instagram is Christie Performance, and we also have a Verus Athletics Instagram as well.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Sweet. Any upcoming events?
Upcoming
for you guys?
events. This is our big camp season right now.
Nice.
So we have a speed camp coming up, we have a volleyball camp coming up, and we have a girls basketball camp coming up within the next couple of months. And then that kind of leads us right into our new facility. So it's crazy times, a lot going on, but that's how I want it to be.
Yeah.
I'd rather have that than be bored.
Pray for the strength to handle more, right?
Yeah, I love that.
Instead of thinking like, oh, I don't want to do all this, it's like, no, I want to be strong enough to handle all this.
Right.
You got it coming, brother. I'm excited for you.
Thank you, man.
Yeah, man. So this weekend, we're getting into some hoops tomorrow. You're gonna get to hoops event. Unfortunately, I'll be at work, but I'm sure that'll be amazing. I'm sure you'll enjoy that.
Yeah.
We're gonna watch the Colombia-Argentina game.
Oh yeah.
Tomorrow night. Dude, Colombia, come on. Please win this one for me. I know it's Messi's last game, but whatever. Do you watch any soccer?
Yeah, I've been watching the Copa and what's the European?
Eurocopa.
Yeah. I've been watching both of those. I'm excited for the Olympics as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't watch I really don't watch a ton of sports, although I'm it's because I do sports every day. I'm not a big TV watcher, but in big events like these, it's fun to watch.
Yeah, same. I don't really I didn't even watch any of the Colombia games up until now.
Yeah.
I might get shunned from my country for saying that, but I just don't, man. I think it's distracts you from the work that we're doing totally. Right now. I probably wouldn't be doing this podcast if I were watching sports or TV or something like that. And I just want to do this to kind of learn from other coaches because I want to be a successful coach. And I feel like the best way to do that is networking, learning from people who are ahead of you. And just trying to be better every day, studying. I do lots of reading. Most of what I read is literally exercise stuff and then theology, but we can get into those talks a little bit more privately. But we'll have an exclusive version of this podcast where we kind of go into some of the other things that I'm into aside from coaching. But,
it's been fun. I think some of my friends and stuff saw that I was going to Tampa and they thought I was going down here to party and have fun. And the first thing that we did this morning was work out. And now we're gonna go hit the sauna
Yeah.
and cold plunge, and then we're gonna play some hoops tomorrow with everybody.
Yeah.
And I think it's just cool to have this relationship, like you're saying, with other coaches that you're going to be a good coach because you're willing to put in the work too yourself. Every time I come down here, not only do I see you putting in the work, but I can see your progress, which I think is really cool too.
Thanks, brother.
Like to see your physique and see where you came from. And I remember we were talking about it when we first met, like where you started from, and even like Connor. Like when I saw Connor the first thing today, I was like, dang, like he's gotten way stronger. Like it was noticeable. You know,
100%.
So that's why you're going to be a good coach too, is like not only because of like all the actual coaching aspects of it, but I can tell like you're willing to put in that work too.
Oh yeah.
Even
absolutely.
just the fact that you were just like hopped in the plyo workout today, like that was a lot of fun.
I'm always game. Yeah. Let's go, dude. Like I consider myself an athlete too. I do martial arts, but like you have to be an athlete to do martial arts as well. I'm just not as explosive as you are because you're like used to jumping, so it's like a little bit different for me. But I love it. No, man, I'm always game to play. And I've been getting some like really amazing results. I've only been a coach for like 4 years now, but like as far as like clients, like I've helped a ton of people out with knee pain, lower back pain, shoulder pain, and things like that. And it's just a different field, like rehab versus performance. But the great thing is we have a system that actually does both,
Right.
And it scales and levels from like a grandparent to like a world-class athlete. So it's just some information, like you said, one of the keys that we've been blessed with. It's just like we want to help other people with it as well.
Yeah.
That's what Ben's doing. He's trying to create leaders in all of us, and that's kind of how I see myself trying to treat my clients. Is like I want to make them. I want to empower them to like lead other people into getting healthier, into getting out of pain, and not thinking that you're going through pain just because you have bad genetics. Like we even think of not just performance. Like I have bad genetics, so I can't perform the way I should as an athlete.
I have bad knees because
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I have bad knees because of my genetics, or lower back pain runs in the family, poor flexibility. Diabetes runs in my family. It's like okay, so the genes are there, but your actions are the trigger, when it comes to those things.
Yeah.
And as long as we have information in the health world of how to, get past those things, you're going to be able to do it. And that's the thing is that people, with the internet out, with all these sources of knowledge that we have, it's like you should be able to empower yourself to get over any obstacle, right? Like anything. And I think that way for myself. Like I don't know if I told you a little bit about my story, but like I was, obese. I had a problem with alcohol. I had all these things, and it's like podcast was actually what kind of helped me get over that. Like learning from the experts that Joe Rogan had on, Tim Ferriss, Chris Williamson. Learning from those people how to actually lead a healthy life and get over these symptoms that I was having, depression, lower back pain, all these things. Really helped me to start going down the right path in life, and I feel like it's completely changed my life, and that's what motivated me to help other people do the same.
I think we've talked a lot about like even this podcast, and in general we've talked a lot about like ATG and exercises and plyometrics and all this stuff, but like I think the main thing that has really like changed my life is like making a lot of just lifestyle changes, like the food that I eat, the things that I drink on a day-to-day basis, like just what I'm using to put into my body. And we had a conversation on like an Instagram live the one night that was like
I forgot about that. Yeah, that was great.
Like it was so great because so much of this information is just like not out there, or it's not as popular, and I'm sure there's a reason behind that. That's not the main sources out there, but like just being able to learn that type of stuff I think is maybe even more important. Like I wouldn't be able to do the things that I'm doing if I wasn't fueling my body the right way, So I think it's like awesome to have ATG as a backbone, but like some of the other conversations that we've had I feel like have made an even bigger impact on myself,
Yeah, absolutely, man. Awesome, brother. Let's go get some sauna, cold plunge, and it's always a pleasure, man.
Yeah, same. We'll do it again.
Shout out to the Hunkering Stool. These guys are going to sponsor the podcast one day. Just sitting on these, but it's kind of like a way
Cut
to.
that part out.
No. I mean, like if you sit in a place for too long, it's actually made to make your butt hurt, like for it being flat like this.
Like stand up.
Yeah, because the best position is the next position when it comes to sitting. Because like think about it, like we're used to sitting down like on the ground, right?
Oh, this is way better.
Yeah, so like if you start feeling uncomfortable, which is actually kind of like what I figured out, this is designed to make you feel.
Yeah.
You move to the next position and then you're comfortable again.
Oh, this is sick.
Right? Whereas
this is actually really comfortable though, right here.
Yeah, and on your knees.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like the kind of what you're going like saying, if I got uncomfortable, I could just kind of move myself up.
Yeah.
And I could just sit like this and
or
then
sit in a
get
squat.
get back into it. That's cool. Okay.
Yeah, so that's what it's designed for. And I'm kind of working on this thing that's the counter sitting program, right? And I've noticed I'm thinking about including some things in there about how to sit while you work. And really the best way to do it is just not sitting on anything at all, like just sitting on the ground. Because then you have to constantly switch positions. Because if we get into these like chairs and they're super comfy, you're just going to be like this for like hours. And then your body's going to be super stiff.
Yeah.
So
no, it's actually sick. Okay.
Yeah, comfort and convenience are like two of the things that have led us to where we are physically as humans, like as a general population. Because like if you think about it, like we don't have to do our clothing anymore. We don't have to hang it up on lines. We hardly have to do any manual labor at all. And a lot of that it's kind of taking away so much physical activity and it's making us more sedentary.
Right.
So yeah, comfort and convenience. There's no growth in comfort. And that's something that's been said over and over again. But yeah there's a lot of truth to it.
Sponsor the pod.